further, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Ajeng Rosita, and you can call me Miss Ajeng. So today we will learn about something new. What is that? Check it out.
Before we go on to the next material, please look at the picture. The first picture is Malin Kundang. The next is Sangkuriang. And the last is Story of Cinderella. From that picture, what topic that we will learn today? Yes, narrative text.
Alright, dear friends, after you look at that picture that I showed you, it means that picture is belong to what kind of text? Yes, a really good narrative text. So today we will learn about a narrative text. So the first that we must know is about a narrative text. So what is the narrative text? So in the whiteboard, I write that a narrative text is a type of text that tells a story or describes a sequence of events. It's too long, right? But we can make it short and we can remember if we know that the narrative text is an imagination story. It's really simple, right? If you want now or if you want to remember what is the narrative text, just know that narrative text is an imagination story, right? Okay, and for the next is about the purpose of a narrative text. What is the purpose of the narrative text? Alright, dear friends, so narrations means the art of storytelling. So what is the purpose of the narrative text? The purpose of the narrative text is really easy. It's to entertain and also to present a story. So the purpose of the narrative text is to entertain the readers and also to present a story. That means that the purpose of the narrative text is really important, right? Okay, and for the next is to know about a narrative text and also to know how to write and how to analyze the narrative text. We should know about the generic structure. Alright, and for the next we will learn about the generic structure of the narrative text. Every text have their own generic structure, and today we will learn about a generic structure of the narrative text. So my dear friends, after we know about what is the narrative text and also the purpose of the narrative text, and for the next is we must know about the generic structure of the narrative text. What is the generic structure of the narrative text? In here we have four. The first is orientation, complication, resolution, and reorientation. What is that? Okay, I will explain it. Orientation is opening the paragraph. In the opening of the paragraph, where the characters of the story are introduced. Okay, so I will explain again. The orientation is opening the paragraph where the characters of the story are introduced. In here, it's really important to know, and this is the characteristic. Actually, or especially, or we can know the characteristic. It's from who, when, and where. Okay, I will give you an example. Long time ago, lived a beautiful princess named Prince Cinderella. I will repeat again. Long time ago, lived a beautiful princess named Princess Cinderella. That's the example of the introduction. And for the next is about a complication. What is that? Complication is when the problem of the story develops. I will repeat again. Complication when the problem of the story develops, or when the problem of the story is appeared. That's the complication. Really good. And for the next is resolution. Resolution is where the problem of the story is solved. I will repeat again. Resolution is where the problem of the story is solved. Really nice. Really good, right? Okay. I hope that you are understand really well about this. And for the last is reorientation. So what is reorientation? Reorientation is closing sentence that tell the final conditions of the story and its moral value message in the story. This is the reorientation. And sometimes reorientation is optional. Sometimes narrative texts only use orientation, complication, and resolution. But if you want to write a narrative story or narrative text, and if you want to put a reorientation, you must put the moral value message on the story. Okay, that's a really nice. I hope that you are understand about the generic structure of the narrative text. I will repeat again. What is generic structure of the narrative text? Orientation, complication, and then resolution and reorientation. Again, orientation, complication, resolution, and reorientation. Really good and really well. So the next is we will learn about what is that? We will learn about language features of the narrative text. Okay. Alright, after we know about generic structure of the narrative text, and for the next is we will learn about language features of the narrative text. Okay, the first is using simple past tense. Can you give me an example of simple past tense? Killed, really good, killed. And then use a was, really good, was. And then drum, really good. Okay, so this is the example of the simple past tense. And the second is use a time conjunction. What is time conjunction? Can you give me an example of the time conjunction? When? Really good. And then? There. And then you can give me an example again. Suddenly. Really good. This is the example of the time conjunction. And for the next is use a specific characters. Can you give me an example again? How about the specific characters? Robin Hood. Really good. Robin Hood. Other please. Cinderella. Okay. That's an example of the specific characters. And for the next is use a direct speech. For example, Cinderella said, "My name is Cinderella." Or Cinderella said to the prince, "I love you, prince. I want to live together with you and loving each other." That's the example of direct speech. And if you want to, you must remember that direct speech always use a present tense. And for the next is use a process or verb. Can you give me an example of the process and verb? Killed, really good. Killed. Her, yes, and etc. I forgot forgot want, you remember what? Can you give me language features, the other language features of the narrative text that I forget it? Use adverb of time. Okay. Okay, I think that you all must understand, or you really understand about the narrative text. The example of adverb of time is, can you give me an example? Once upon a time, and then one day. That's the example of adverb of time. And this is, all of this is the language features of narrative text. Really good. Okay. I will tell you that narrative texts have many kind of texts. So one kind of narrative text is folklore or folktale. The folktale is story passed down verbally from generation to generation. And for the example of folktale or folklore is Roro Jonggrang. Can you give me an example, another example of the narrative text that belong to folklore? The Legend of Sangkuriang, really good. And the next? Can you give me another example? But Timur Mas, really good. And what is that? Malin Kundang. That's the example of folklore of the narrative text. Alright, dear friends, to check your understanding about this material today, I would like to give you a few questions. The first question is, what is narrative text? Really good. So narrative text, the simple way to know about narrative text is text that tell an imagination story. And the second question is, what is the purpose of the narrative text? Can you tell me? Really good. So the purpose of the narrative text is to entertain the readers and also to present a story. And the third question is, what is the generic structure of the narrative text? Can you please tell me? Really good. So the first is orientation, complication, resolution, and reorientation. And the next question is, can you give me an example of the narrative text that belong to folklore? The Legend of Sangkuriang, Timur Mas, really good. And then Malin Kundang, that's really good. And for the next question is, can you tell me the language features of the narrative text? Using a past tense, really good. Time conjunction, adverb of time, and specific nouns that are really good. Give applause for us, please. Okay, that's all that we learned today about narrative text. I hope that you are really understanding about this material because it's really easy, right? Okay, see you next time with me, with Miss Ajeng. And I hope you really understand about this material. See you!
Wait a minute. In this time, I will show you the example of the narrative text with the story of Timur Mas. Please enjoy the video and see you next time.
This tale brings us to the mystical island of Java, Indonesia, where a widow named Umbok Sirni lived alone on her farm. The widow was a kindly woman, yet she was overwhelmed by loneliness and longed to have a child by her side. When her loneliness became too much to bear, Umbok Sirni decided to pray to Buto Ijo for help. Buto Ijo was a monstrous ogre who lived on the outskirts of the village and was known to occasionally grant wishes to people. The monster offered to grant Umboksirni's wish at a terrible price.
When the child turns 6 years old, you will return her to me to become my meal, he said.
Despite the condition, the desperate woman agreed to his demand. The giant then gave her a single cucumber seed to be planted at her farm. In 2 weeks, the cucumbers started to bear fruit. Yet among them, there was one which was larger than the rest that emitted a golden radiance. Splitting it carefully, Umboksirni found a beautiful baby girl inside. Filled with joy, she named the girl Timun Amas. Alas, she had come to love her daughter over the years, and couldn't bear to lose Timun Amas, and yet she would never be able to stand up to the powerful ogre. Desperate for help, she journeyed to Gunung Kidul, the southern mountain, to seek advice from a powerful hermit. After hearing her plight, the hermit presented Umboksirni with 4 small pouches.
Give these to Timun Amas, the hermit told her. They will help your daughter against the monster.
The day finally arrived when the ogre came to Umboksirni's house, eager for her to fulfill her promise.
Where is my meal?
For hours, the monster chased after Timun Amas, and Microteaching was steadily getting closer. Remembering her mother's advice, she threw the first of the pouches, a bag of cucumber seed, at the monster. Vines of cucumbers magically sprang forth from the earth, blocking Microteaching's path. The ogre, enticed by the fruit, stopped in his tracks to gorge on them. It wasn't long before he ate them all and resumed his chase. Just as the monster was about to catch up to Timun Amas, she threw a second gift, a small bag of needles, at him. A dense forest of sharp bamboo trees appeared where the needles had fallen, trapping Microteaching. The giant ogre eventually burst through the bamboo trees, wounded and enraged. Once more, as he neared Timun Amas, she tossed the third pouch, full of salt, at the monster, hoping to slow him down. Suddenly, out burst a powerful torrent of salt, forming a giant wave which swept the ogre off his feet. Determined more than ever to catch this little girl who troubled him so. Timun Amas had nowhere left to run, and in her hand she held the last of the hermit's gifts. She hurled the small bag as hard as she could at the monster. The bag, containing spice, to a boiling sea of mud, burning Microteaching's skin. The monster struggled in the mud. He shrieked and howled in pain. And then all was silent. Timun Amas had finally stopped Buto Ijo once and for all. Returning to her house, her delighted mother embraced her in her arms, and they both lived out the rest of their days in peace.